And we're live. Welcome back to another Corona Geek. Here we talk all about mobile app development using Corona SDK. I'm your host, Charles McKeever, and today we're going to talk about Android TV publishing, working with text, resizing text boxes, or moving text boxes, and 2015 goals. So welcome back, everybody, to a brand new year, a brand new opportunity to ship those apps. Did you guys participate in Ship Jam? Anybody?
Well, I participated. I didn't finish.
Well, I think that's all right. I mean, as long as it inspired you to dust off the code that was on your hard drive and make another pass at trying to get it out the door, I think that's all right. At least accomplishes the spirit of the event.
Right.
If you guys haven't, if you don't know what we're talking about, go over to shipjam.com. There was a game jam going on over there where it was encouraging you to ship an app before the end of the year. I think all the submissions have already been, the entries have already been made because now we're in the review/judging phase of things. But I think it's a great event. I would love to see them do that every year. I think it's a great concept. So. Today we're going to talk about a lot of great things as well. Let me look at what we've got here as our announcements and our reminders. If you haven't taken a look at Corona Geek number 122, then I definitely recommend it. We talked about coroutines and creating 2D shadows. So if you're not familiar with coroutines, there's a lot of great uses for it. Stephen Johnson was on with us. He gave us a good overview of what coroutines do and how you could implement them in your app. And he's also provided a library of, well, not a library, but a repo of examples, and there's also a video out there that you can check out. So if you go on 122, you can find all the links in the show notes. And of course, you can find that at Corona Geek, or go to youtube.com/Corona Geek. That's probably the best place to see all the videos that we've put out over the last couple of years. Also, if you're interested in those show notes was Renee I's link to his 2D shadows. What was he calling it? Was he calling it a system? It was calling it a system. It's basically a library that you can add to your projects and do 2D shadows. Some interesting stuff that he's got going on there. We also broke that Hangout up into snack-sized videos. So if you're interested in just one topic or the other, you can watch those individual topics and make it to where it easier to consume on the treadmill. So, where do you consume podcasts? Treadmill? Anybody?
Car.
In the car? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, like while I'm driving.
Yeah, in the car. Definitely, the commute is probably the best place. I used to do it when I would go to the gym and I would work out. I would listen to them on a treadmill. So anything that was 10, 15, 20 minutes long was perfect.
Yeah.
Now. Also, if you have not been to the forums lately, definitely go over there, check it out. There's a lot of great people over there. I know Ed hangs out over there, and Brian hangs out over there. Also, is a whole forum devoted to Corona Geek, and pinned at the top of that is a thread about show topics for 2015. So if you want us to discuss something in particular on the show this year, then go over there and put your suggestion in the box, because we want to talk about what you want to talk about. Also, if you didn't see it already, Jason Schroeder over at jasonschroeder.com, he put out a demo of or an example of how to create or implement a progress ring. So he's got a progress ring module over there for Corona SDK. It's one line of code, and you can add a progress ring to your app. So if you've ever seen basically a little color bar or color ring that shows a status as something progresses, a progress ring, then this is basically what it is, and it's really easy to implement. He's also the developer of Social Poetry, so if you are interested in creating word art, kind of like you did with magnets on your refrigerator a few years back, then you can do that with an app called Social Poetry. So go check that out. And he's got it all over at jasonschroeder.com, and we'll have a link in the show notes as well. One other announcement here is that Corona is kind of a reminder, is Corona is hiring. So if you are interested in working for Corona, working for a mobile development company, then we will put a link in the show notes where you can go over and you can apply. And if you know someone who is a developer who's looking to get into something like that, maybe you want to pass that link to them and get them all hooked up, because we're hiring and we're looking for smart people. Smart people. Speaking of smart people, tell you who's a smart person, Greg Pugh. Greg Pugh, GP Animations. He is our winner for the December Geek Games. Not only did he play City Birds, which you can find at citybirdsgame.com, but he also played Vitra, like at the last minute, and won both of the $50 gift cards for December. So he had the high score for City Birds, and then because nobody challenged him on Vitra, he took both gift certificates with him. So congratulations, Greg. That was smart, man. Why not? So this month we're going to play Chip Chain. Have you guys, anybody play Chip Chain?
Yes, I played it today, hoping that no one else would play it and I could buy more stuff on Amazon.
We're gonna have to implement a one win only rule for Greg. Yeah, so Chip Chain, chip-chain.com. If you go over, check that out. It's for iOS and Android. That's what we're going to play for January. So there's a couple of different modes that you can play the game as, but there's a 2-minute mode. So basically match as many chips as you can in 2 minutes, rack up your points, and then come over to the Corona Geek Facebook page and share your photo. I'm just going to call it a photo because I know it's kind of hard to take screenshots on the Android devices. So if you want to just snap a photo with your iPhone or your Android device or whatever and submit that to the Facebook wall, just as long as we can see the score, that's cool. And we'll pick a winner on February 2nd, I believe it is. And that'll give us the entire month of January that we can play. And so good luck. All right, I think that's the most of it. I want to get into today's topic and leave room for our goals. So let's talk about Android TV. Now, Greg, you've had some experience with this, so we're going to rely on you to be the subject matter expert here. Tell us about Android TV and your experience with it.
I actually didn't even know what it was. I just happened to stumble across the developer link saying Google was going to send out some devices that you hook up to your television. So I signed up, and without notice, I got one for free in the mail like months later. So I wrote a little blog post about it. It's on gpanimationsblog.com, and here you can see what the device looks like. It looks a lot like the Amazon Fire TV or an Apple TV. They're all pretty much the same with the little game controller. And shortly after that, I hooked it up and I was able to port one of my games to it, but I couldn't get it to actually show up in the Google Play Store under the Android TV Game Store. And then around Christmas Eve, Corona released a new daily build, and it actually supports Android TV now, so I was able to get it on the Play Store under Android TV.
Sweet.
Excellent.
And what did you publish? I mean, you said you already have a game ready to go. So what was?
It was the Maddie Bear Snack Time, which started out as an iPhone app, and then I moved over to Fire TV thanks to Ed, because he wrote a little snippet of code that let me capture all the button controller codes. So I just kind of altered Ed's coding to match the Fire TV game controller.
So you said you had the iPhone version first, and then you added in the controller inputs. Was that a big deal? Was adding controllers?
It was a little difficult because I couldn't find any good documentation on it. Everyone I could find wasn't correct for the game controller that I received. So just through enough Google searching, I was able to find it, and I was able to edit Ed's code here, where I found the key codes. And this is just his rgeasyftv.lua file that he gave out in the previous show.
Okay, so you had to just go in and modify the codes because they were specific to the controller for Android TV.
Yeah, it should be noted that when I got the developer's kit, it's not even called Android TV, it was just like the ADT1 developer kit. They don't actually give you the little remote control, they just give you a game controller. And the remote control, I guess, has like a microphone button, and that's how you do all your searching through the TV. And it also has different key codes. So I have no idea what those codes are. So right now my game's not compatible with just a regular remote control. It just only works with the game controller.
Okay, so somebody would have to have the game controller. So, do you have any plans to support the regular control? I guess the default controller.
I guess I'd have to either just find the codes or buy one, and I really have no ambition to buy a controller, to be honest, because I only use this to play Sega Genesis emulators, so
Gotcha.
I don't use it.
So it's less of a technical issue and more of a just a logistical getting the controller sort of thing.
Yeah.
I wonder what, do you know what that controller looks like? I wonder what the buttons would even be like. I mean, if you would just be like press a button to get her to get the character to jump, and then you need a left and a right, right?
I assume it probably just looks like the Fire TV stock controller,
Mm-hmm.
since this looks pretty much exactly like that Fire TV controller as well.
Yeah, I think the hand controller, the game controller, is a more natural input, though. I mean, I can't imagine playing a video game with my remote control.
Yeah.
Seems a little weird.
Yeah, it would be a little kludgy.
Yeah. Okay, so controller inputs, and then what else? So, I mean, what was the Corona piece that was missing?
Okay, so in the daily build, starting I guess on the 24th of December, and now you can add supports television. So in build.settings under Android, you could put supports TV equals true, and if it's a game, just put is game equals true. And that's all you really need for the build settings portion to get it to show up as an Android, I guess Android TV game.
So I wonder what the difference would be between is game and not is game. I mean,
I think that just means it's like a music app or a utility app.
I mean, did you guys watch the trailer or the Google I/O video that I put in with the Hangout? It basically it was from Google I/O, and the developers, the Android TV developers, were up there kind of demoing the features of it, and they didn't really go too deep into the use case for like apps and stuff like that, but they did talk about their vision for TV itself and how they were standardizing menus, and how they had provided this API for content publishers to be able to tap into. So if you're a Netflix or I mean, you don't have to be a big name publisher, but if you were one of these publishers, you could customize how thumbnails showed up and how the header image and stuff showed up for your particular series or whatever. So I thought that was interesting, and they also talked about the unification of channels. So today you have kind of like the satellite over the air antenna, and then you have internet. So you have these different inputs, and they said, essentially that you shouldn't even need to be concerned as a consumer about inputs. And so they came up with this thing called a universal input, and so essentially, when you go to the menu as a consumer to operate the television, then it would just figure out what input it needs to switch over to. That way, you don't have to go to like today, I had to go to HDMI 1 for Apple TV or HDMI 2 for Xbox 360 or whatever. With Android TV, it would just kind of figure it out, and you wouldn't even have to worry about it. So I wonder, supports TV versus is game equals true. I wonder if that would. I wonder if that plays into that, and what kind of apps we could create that would be kind of content apps as opposed to just game apps.
I know the Amazon Fire TV, if you just press a button on the game controller or remote control, it actually will turn on your TV and switch it to HDMI, whatever it's on, automatically for you, which I wish everything else in the world did that.
Right.
Yeah, mine turns on whenever I turn on like my set-top box or my Blu-ray player or whatever, and switches channels.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's a certain point where you're just like, there's no value, right? I mean, initially, yes, the standards haven't been set, and you don't, the back of the TV today is hugely different than it was 10 years ago. But now we're kind of at that point where like, okay, I don't. The consumer doesn't care about the inputs anymore. They just want to hook it all to the TV and then go. Which I think is interesting for game controllers and boxes because again, we're going to see Android TV, Apple TV. I'm assuming eventually they will come out with a TV SDK or something where you can develop apps. I mean that's not open right now, but I'm assuming it's got to be because everybody's wanting the car, the home, the tablet, the computer. So
the Tesla.
The Tesla. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? That big screen in the Tesla.
Yeah, it's huge. It's great.
Yeah. I got one. Yeah, right.
yeah. Well, I've seen them.
Hey, I had a question for Greg.
Yeah.
Greg, when you did the build for Amazon, did you use a target app setting? I.e., when you go to do the Android build, you can choose Amazon, GameStick, Google Play, Nook, Ouya, and none? Or did you just use a generic build?
I do not remember. I was actually thinking about this because Stinky Kitties was talking about this on Twitter. They were having problems, and I actually did receive an email from Amazon when that Fire Stick came out, saying that my build settings or something weren't set up for the Fire Stick, and I'd have to go in. But here's my Fire TV build settings. It doesn't look like I have anything special in there.
I'm talking about when you're in the simulator and you go through the build step.
Okay.
Yeah, I would bring mine up. Let me just bring up my whole screen so I can show you what I'm talking about here.
So, Greg, what you're saying then is that you have to resubmit your app to support Fire Stick? Is that what we're saying?
Oh, great. Here, I did the wrong
thing. They were saying that doesn't work or isn't compatible, or I'd have to do something with it, and I just ran out of time and got busy, so I never got to actually look into what they were talking about.
How have your downloads been on those platforms, or have you had enough time to see any kind of trends?
The Fire TV sells a few units a day, usually, surprisingly. And I think that's just because they were giving out those free coins for a while. If you could support Game Circle when you uploaded the Fire TV apps, when the Fire TV first debuted, they would give you like 50,000 coins to give out to customers to kind of lure them in. And then if someone bought your app, you could reward them with like 70 coins, and then they could use that to buy more apps. So I think a lot of people are just sitting on a stack of free coins, so they're really just making sales.
That's how I roll too. Use free coins.
But that translates into actual dollars for you, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now for Google Play, I haven't sold any of these, and I actually made this free. I don't know, it's still showing 99 cents because I just wanted this to be like a app that people could download and see how it was made in Corona. So I don't know why it's still showing 99 cents, but it should be free.
Huh.
Okay.
My question for you, Greg, can you see my screen?
Let's see. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is when I do the build, you can choose the target app store. Mine is always set to Google Play because that's where I publish all my Android stuff. But your choices are Amazon, GameStick, Google Play, Nook, Ouya, and then none. Sort of like a generic build. So did you choose Amazon here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I don't know what they would do. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I submitted an app to Amazon, and I can't remember what they do if you don't set that. If they even notice.
Yeah, I think I just chose Amazon because it made sense. I don't actually know what any of that does. I don't know what I'm doing.
I kind of wish. Well, of course, we can go back to the video where Sergey showed us the utility for dumping out the contents of the manifest, so we could see what's in there. But between the two different builds and check out the differences between the manifests. But anyways.
Right.
Okay, so I was just curious about that.
Which is a good point, though. I mean, just probably has more to do with the manifest than anything else. I've never actually asked. I'm just like you guys. I'm just like, oh, okay, it's going to Amazon, and do the Amazon.
Yeah, it makes sense. So it probably works, right?
Right. Yeah, but I'm sure there's a more technically satisfying answer than that. So.
Just one of those little things where people who aren't used to the process could just skip right over it. Just click OK, click build. Oh,
Yeah,
it's
right.
not working. Oh, it's because you didn't choose Amazon. Oh, I didn't see that. I waited a week.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
whatever you wait with Amazon.
Right. Okay. So controller inputs. You said you had to do a Google search to find the controller codes that were specific to that controller. Then you needed the build settings in Corona. Well, actually, I guess the official support with the build settings in Corona. And then that was it. I mean, you just submitted from there. It was just a straight submit like normal.
The only other thing besides that is you need to make a little icon called banner-xhdpi, which is 320 by 180. Because when you go to make your store listing on Google Play here, it'll ask for a TV banner for 320 by 180, so you could upload it right there. And also for TV, so if it gets into their little featured TV app store, you'll have a little screenshot so people know how it will kind of look on their television screen.
Okay. And have you experimented with, I don't know how to say this, like getting jiggy with the banner? Like you say, like when it shows up on the TVs, does it show up differently than like say on the tablet? I mean, could you make it like some sort of?
Well, here's the thing that's not great about not having that remote control that comes standard, I guess, that you can with the microphone. That's how you do all your searching. So if I just checked my Android TV and this app isn't listed under like the featured apps, and I can't actually get on there and search for my app because I don't have the little microphone button.
Okay, we're gonna have to get you a microphone button
That's a little retarded.
controller because
Well,
Bad
if you
design.
have a
because inquiring
you have
minds
an
want to know.
Android device, you can, I guess, you know how you can use your iPhone to control your Apple TV with the remote app? I guess there's something for Android. I don't know. I just have like an ancient Android device. You have to use your Android device's keyboard to type. You just can't like bring up an on-screen keyboard on the TV and
Wait,
type it in with your controller.
wait, you can control your Apple TV with your iPhone? I didn't know
You
that.
didn't know that? No.
I knew
Okay.
I knew you could do AirPlay.
Seems kind of
Yeah,
obvious now that you think about it, though, right?
it's just called remote.
Kind of like the same remote that you use for Keynote. That remote, like the Apple remote app.
I don't know. It just says remote on my screen. It says Apple TV, my iTunes library, and my wife's iTunes library, and I could just navigate through and put stuff on the Apple TV.
Hey, Greg.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
It's a different app. There's a Keynote remote, and then there's a remote. There's just Apple remote. Okay.
Do
Oh.
you have the config file available for the game? Can we look at that?
For the Android TV here?
Yeah. Okay, so I see what you did there. So you chose to use zoom stretch so that it would fill out the whole screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if Amazon's? I think Amazon's got a deal where they don't like to see any black borders.
I mean, like
Yeah, I
top
don't
and
think I
bottom?
have any. Yeah, I don't think I have any on mine.
If you use letterbox and then you don't fill in the borders with something, if it's just black.
Yeah, because even on my Fire TV one for Amazon, I have Zoom Stretch as well.
Yeah. Right, just a sec.
Okay. So apart from the banner, was there any other gotchas or anything else that we should know?
No, that's it. Really, just go in, build settings, add supports TV equals true. If it's a game, put is game is true. Make sure it works with a controller versus touchscreen using the game codes, and upload the banners. That's it.
And did you say on Amazon you said you had a couple of sales a day on? But have you seen any kind of, since this has been up on Android TV, have you seen any kind of activity there?
I have seen no activity whatsoever on any of my Google apps for like a year. Whereas like iOS, Amazon, I see like at least one sale a day. Google, I barely see anything going on there.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that goes along with what the reports are saying from Christmas, and and I think that's generally most of the developers experiences. We make the majority of the money still from Apple. And Amazon is right behind Apple. And then Google Play is a very, very, very distant 10th place out of 3.
It's kind of weird, though, because I know some people are making real money on Google Play. I just don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're making money off Google Play, because I'm just not seeing even book sales or for app downloads. I'm just not seeing the same volume that I see through Amazon and Apple.
Do you, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have a theory about that, which is there's no scientific evidence backing my theory,
Okay.
but I think it's because iOS devices, they're a little costly, like especially like if you want to get like the Mac computers. So already those customers are used to like paying a decent amount of money for something nice, and Amazon customers are used to just already doing the e-commerce shopping. Whereas everything Google offers is free. You don't pay for Gmail, you don't pay for Google Maps, you don't pay for anything Google related unless it's like an upgrade to your Drive account. So already those customers are like, well, all this stuff I could probably find somewhere else for free or on another app and get that for free. Whereas Apple customers, they're just like, well, you know, I got this nice iPhone, I might as well just fill it with good apps, and they're willing to pay a little bit more.
Right. The other thing is the iPhone is much more of a secure environment, so those people who are tending to not pay in the first place are going to have more hurdles to jump over to steal content.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, well, it's going to be. You're absolutely right. It's going to be a lot harder. There's a book out there. I'm trying to find it here in my list of books, but there's one about the history of free or the psychology of free. I'll have to find it, but basically the guy talks about this idea that it's harder to go from zero to something than it is to go from something to something greater. So going from zero to a penny is like this chasm that you have to jump. Whereas if somebody's already paid, a penny or a dollar or whatever, then they're more inclined to either repeat the behavior or buy something incrementally larger. So yeah, I think if you're already in that ecosystem, you're already accustomed to paying for something, then it's not that big a deal to buy apps. Whereas if, like Greg was saying, if everything is already free, right? If you're going to Google for free everything, then your expectation is probably not going to be that you're going to pay for anything. So Ed, I would be interested to know, how the other developers are making money off of it, and if it's just a numbers game. Is it just sheer volume? Are they doing some sort of marketing push and getting, stuffing enough people through the funnel that they eventually make money off of some of them?
Right. And where is their money coming from? Is it purchases? Is it in-app? Is it advertising?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, because I definitely know that it's easier to get apps onto Google, so it's more attractive in that respect to the developers. But you need it to kind of pay the bills. So, and Greg, I absolutely agree. I think Amazon. I mean, that's what Amazon's been banking on this entire time, right? Is that they already have your information. You can do the one-tap buy. They just make it effortless. And you're already accustomed to paying for things through Amazon. Again, psychologically, they already that they're going to deliver on the promise of sending or giving you something. So interesting.
And I'd like to thank Ed again, because without Ed's coding for the Easy Fire TV Lua file, like I wouldn't be able to put anything on the Fire TV or the Android TV. So it's really all his genius that made this possible.
Insert clapping sound here.
You're more than welcome, sir. Although I have to say that part of this year's work will be to release a much cleaner and easier to use variant of what you've got there, so there'll be no searching for codes anymore. So, because if I had done it properly, thank you very much for saying that, but if I hadn't done it properly, you would have not been faced with the question of what's the code for this key. So
would it be like a universal remote where it figures out what the codes are itself?
It's already in there, actually. Android already has universal names for these keys. You just have to choose a key that maps to one that's on the device, And as long as the manufacturer has used, like for example, right button, they have a right button on their controller, as long as they've used the standard key name, it should work. But it's kind of tricky because there's the numeric codes, and then there are some other codes that go with these key inputs. And then there is a mapping code or name that goes with them too. Anyways, I'm making this completely confusing.
That's okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to link to Greg's blog post. Greg, does that blog post have the link to the Google search or the controller codes that you came up with?
It does not, but I can put something up there and send it to you.
Okay. Or yeah, if you just want to put that in the comments of your blog post, then we'll just
I could look for it too.
we'll just link there, and then we'll also add a link to Ed's controller inputs library, and yeah, so we'll do all that. We'll put that in the show notes. That way, everybody can go and kind of grab the different pieces and publish their apps wherever they want. All right. Anything else? Are we done there?
I think so. There's really not too much to it. Just steal Ed's code and claim all the glory like I did.
Perfect. Excellent.
Step 1, steal codes. Step 2, claim glory. Got it.
Congratulations on that maneuver.
Well, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's I know that was something that we were trying to work out for a while, and now I'm glad it's all come together. So let's talk about something that's really sexy, and that's resizing text.
That is so sexy.
It is. Well, like I said before, it's one of these things that doesn't sound particularly interesting, but if your app depends on text inputs, text fields, having text be the right size, then it's important, and therefore it means something to you. So we want to talk about resizing text, scaling text, and then we also want to talk about text boxes, and then we'll get a chance here. We'll talk about moving text boxes as well. That's a really
this is
short
one of those
topic.
big topics. This has been a big challenge, the resizing of text or text not appearing the right size the way we wanted since native text boxes and text fields first became available. So with this new release in the daily builds for being able to automatically resize the text to fit in your text field and text box, this is a really big deal. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. As of 2520, daily build 2520. That's when all the magic happens. So if you are on that build or later, then what we're about to talk about will apply to you, and if not, then there's some tutorials out there that will help you accomplish the same thing, but it's a little more legwork. And I think, Ed, you're going to cover both of them, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to give a real quick run through, and I've also put together a sampler so people don't have to extract the code from the blog articles. They can just use my sample and take the module right out of it. And I've made some small changes to the module to make it a little more not usable, but just have an additional small feature. So I'm ready to launch if you're ready for me to launch.
All right, sir. Launch
okay,
away.
So I'm sharing my screen. Can you see this okay?
Yes.
All right, so the two things that we're talking about today are some weeks ago, back in December, early December, there was a blog tutorial that talked about how to resize the text field such that you would resize the font to fit the box or the box to fit the font, which is basically the other direction. And then there was another blog post here on December 16th which announced a new release, which is what Brian was just talking about, where the new release now incorporates those same features as part of the native text field. In addition, it automatically defaults to scaling the font to fit the box, I believe. So what I've done is I put together an example, which again will be available as a link off of the Hangout notes, and it includes a two different sample files. Let me make this a little bigger. I'm not going to go through all this code because it's rather lengthy, and it's pretty straightforward. It's commented, so people can just read it and see what it does. I will give a quick overview. And it also includes a file called native ext, which means native extension .lua. And what this does is it adds a new method, a new function, that is, to the native library, which comes with Corona. So basically, you would require native ext, as I have done. Let me find it. As I've done right here. And as soon as you do that, forever after that, the native library, which is part of Corona, will include a function called new scaled text field. And it will also include get scaled font size, which are the two functions which were provided, let me go back to it, in the tutorial from December 2nd. So if you dig through this code here, you'll see that there is native new scale text and get scaled font.
So
And
basically,
probably a little bit hard to read from there.
Go ahead. So basically, if I'm using the public build, current public
Yes.
build, or a daily build that's earlier than 20, what was it? What would you say,
If
2520?
you're using a build earlier than 2520,
Mm-hmm.
2014 2520, then you'll need native extension.lua to get this functionality. If not, the functionality is built in. And I'll show you how to use both.
Okay.
So my first example is a scaling example, which will show us basically what I'm showing here is my iPad. And on the top, I have a box where I have, let's see, yes, I've scaled the text to fit the height of the box. And in this case, the second line down, I've scaled the box to fit the height of the text. And the text I selected here was font size 30. The third line here is showing font size 30, so it should look the same, and it does. And then this, the next box down, let's see, from the middle down is the native scaling, so the one that comes with 2520 and after. And in this case, I've scaled the text up to fit the box. Second line is scaled the box to fit a 30 font, and again the 30 font just for comparison to show that they're the same size. And it's probably a little bit subtle, but if you're looking at this very carefully, the box scaling, where the box is scaling to fit the font size, is a little bit larger in the legacy code that uses the scaling code, the native extension scaling code. So what I'm saying is if you're using a version prior to 2520 and you use the native extension code to scale the box, it's going to be a little bit larger than what you would get for the version that is part of the build in 2520 and beyond. And the reason is because with this one, you can choose how much border you have, how many pixels are between the top and bottom. And I believe the scale box, the method that you use to scale the box in 2520 and after, doesn't have an option to choose how much border there is between the edges. In other words, like make this box have more border. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
A margin. Increase the margin size.
So there might be what you're saying. Are you saying that there may be a case then where you might want to use that other code?
I would think that if you're scaling the box to fit the text, you pretty much don't want the margin to be larger. You want it to be sort of like consistent. So it's not a problem. But even if you use the settings as they are in the code from the blog post, your margins are going to be a little bit larger than what you see for the built-in feature from 2520 on. So it's not going to be exactly the same. However, with that in mind, I added a feature to native extension when I noticed this. And let's see, where is it? If I could find it, it'd be awesome. Here.
I also
Go ahead.
I also see the when I'm running this because I have the demo that you sent to me when I'm running it in the Mac
OS
simulator.
10? Yeah.
Yeah, it looks it's considerably different than what you've got on your screen.
Right. The OS 10 still doesn't exactly reflect what it's going to look like on your device.
Yeah.
It's closer, but it's still not exactly right. For example, one thing is if I had filled this up with more text than the width, on the device you get a little ellipses, but in the simulator it wraps.
Hmm.
So it doesn't give you at all the correct. The other thing you're going to see is the spacing is goofed up between the top and the bottom sometimes on in OS 10 on the simulator.
Yeah.
So people running this in the simulator, be aware of that. You got to run it on the device to get the final, the exact result. So in the original version of native new scale text, which is from that first blog post, the arguments were the X position, the Y position, the width of the text field, the font size that you wanted, and that was it. But because I noticed that it wasn't resizing this portion exactly correctly, I modified the code and added another argument, which is if you can supply, it's an optional argument. And what it says is how many pixels do you want the margin to be? So what this is saying, when I set it to 10, is saying have a 5 pixel margin on the top and a 5 pixel margin on the bottom. So if I wanted no margin, I could set this to 0, and it wouldn't come out to be exactly no margin, but it would be narrower. So, and I'm not going to run it because I'd have to build it, and I'm doing this sort of like a complicated computer connection here. I don't want to crash anything in the middle of this discussion.
Okay.
So just to reiterate, you can get this example, and I'll find the code. Sorry. And if you run the scaling example, it will run this code here, which you can step through. It's all commented. And you'll see this on your device.
Okay.
Old style on the top, new style on the bottom. And the code is smart enough not to run it if you're using an older version of the Corona. So it'll not. If you're running with 2519 or prior, you'll only see this part right here, the top section.
Okay.
So the other thing that we talked about previously, and it's important for people to understand, is I don't remember when this feature got put in, but way back in the day, you could not put native text fields in display groups. So native text fields will always be on top of everything else, but ideally, you would be able to put them in a display group, because once objects are in a display group, you have the ability to move every object in the group by moving the group itself. In other words, if I have an object that pixels 100, 100, and another one at 200, 200, and then I move the group up by 10 pixels, it's as if I moved them to 190 and 200, 190. So the value of this for text fields is that by putting the native display objects in, and am I showing this? Yes. By putting them in a display group, it gives you access to the ability to scroll your content. And I don't know if that's coming through.
Yep, it is.
By building an interface that takes touch inputs. So what I'm doing, you can't see it, is I'm touching sort of the blackish gray region on the side and sliding my finger up and down. And what I've got there is a rectangle that takes a touch input, and when I move my finger, it moves the group that the text fields have been inserted into. And if we look at the code,
and each text field is still a working text field too, right?
Yeah, each text field is a working text field, and I'll show you that. Okay. Is I create a text field, and I insert it into a group, and then down here, I have create a group, and then I create a bunch of text fields, and I pass that group into the builder, and then I insert them. So that's this group here, and I insert all these new text fields in there. And I do all my little doohickeys where I place them, and I put some content in them. And then I have this touch function, which is attached to a rectangle behind everything. And when I touch that, all it does basically is a little calculation to move the drag group up or down. And so what you see when I touch the screen and drag is that the fields move. However, if I tap in a text field, like text field 11, it pops the keyboard up. I can type some stuff. And then the way my routine is set up, if I tap the black area on the right or left, it automatically closes the keyboard and allows me to drag again. So I can't drag by tapping on the text fields. There's a way to do that too, I'm pretty sure. But if you want to put a little margin or a scroll bar on the side, sort of like what we call an affordance, where people say, oh, there's a scroll bar, I should touch that to scroll. Then you can do that. Now I have no art. I have no art on this side, but if I had been prepared, I'd have put a little scroll bar over here. People can scroll, tap.
But you couldn't do an overlay or anything like that, right? You couldn't do like a
You cannot do an overlay.
watermark.
You can put anything over the text fields. Not yet. I'm still holding out for the day when that's going to be possible. But what you can't see is here is I've got my finger on this text field and I'm sliding it up and down and nothing is happening. But if I touch off to the side, it closes the keyboard and now I can scroll.
Well, that's an interesting option, because I know some people have had issues with text input, and then when they tap on a field, then the keyboard comes up and it obscures the fields themselves. So
Right.
there was a tutorial out there about moving native text fields up and down, and it seems like this would be an option as well, where you could do some scrolling. You could just scroll your
This
whole
would also
form
feed into that, because you could put all your display objects in a group, and then you calculate from the code in that other article on how much the group needs to move based on the keyboard height, and you could use that to move the group all at once and scroll the content up so that it is all still visible. That way you don't have to move every single text field individually. See what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and hide my content here. Go back to camera view. Camera view.
And
So
this is a great solution, Ed. I had a group of students that were working on a business app last semester and used something very similar to this to solve that exact same problem of needing to move the text field or text box further up onto the screen when the keyboard came up. So
yeah, that's always been a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I run into it constantly because I've got like for the Menu Me app, lots of text fields, and dealing with that text input, I had to get super creative basically because I had way more text fields than I had screen real estate to show them all at one time and still keep them accessible.
Yes.
You guys want to look at the? You want to talk about 2015 goals, or do you want to look?
I absolutely do. I'm set to roll out my goals.
Okay. Oh, let's do that then. Okay. Ed's excited.
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Ed. You're excited. Go for it.
Okay, hold on. I got a little thing all prepped for this. Okay, 2 seconds.
I think they don't have to be super duper goals, but I think it's good to have some sort of vision as to what you want to accomplish in the year. It's at least something to shoot for, and if you don't make it, then you can always readjust. But it's good to have some kind of goal.
All right. So I've got a few goals, and the first few are all equal priority goals, but they sort of I've ordered them in the way that one leads to the other in a sense. My first goal for 2015, if you can see my screen,
yes,
is what I call SSK 2.0.
Okay.
So SSK has been around for a couple years now, and it's okay, but it really needs a repolish. And so the things it's getting this year are...
Hold on. So for the people who don't know what SSK is, it's a super starter kit.
Yes, the super starter kit for Corona, which it's a free toolkit of basically like my favorites collection, and it includes things like a complete button and slider library, a layering library, a collision calculator library. I mean, it's just if you can think of a utility that you need to do something quickly, it's probably in here. The whole thing weighs in at about 400K if you load the whole thing into your app. So you're going to pay a small penalty of 400K of memory. But and I'll go into this in the documentation, which is part of this goal. But I think it's worth it. For me, I use it all the time. I mean, I constantly use it. I can't even get by with. I can't remember half the time how to do things with what I call not raw, but
The original.
just standard Corona. Like, for example, I have SSK comes with builders for the different rectangles and circles and stuff. And all in one line, you can specify the color, the position, the stroke. You can add a body. You can attach certain functionality, etc., etc. So one line of code versus, say, like 20. So yes, it may be a multi-line line of code, but it's all extremely straightforward, named parameters, easy to understand. So SSK 2.0, as I was saying, is it's getting an upgrade in terms of features, polish. I'm going to make sure that there are no leaks. There were a couple of global leaks in there that people complained about. And then I'm going to do a benchmarking of all the critical pieces and sort of like speed them up a bit or give you a fast option. Because another complaint that I've seen from folks is, well, the way you're doing it is a lot slower than if I did it this way. But then I say, yes, but that function can be used this way and another way, and you can insert different arguments, and they all work. Whereas with your version, you've got to hand code it out every time. So anyway, SSK 2.0. Oh, and docs. There will officially be docs later this year. So for people who want to, actually learn how to use it instead of just puzzling through my code snippets. Another thing I'm doing this year is what I call just mechanics. I brought this up last year, but a little bit later this month, maybe early February, I'll be releasing a new series of tutorials and templates, which are called Just Mechanics. And what I do in them is I focus on specific things like one-touch inputs, or how do you make a one-way platform, etc., etc. So instead of doing entire games, it'll be focused on one specific thing that somebody's trying to solve. I feel like this will be a better approach because a lot of people, they don't want the whole solution for an entire game genre. They just want to know how to do a joystick, or they just want to know how to do a camera where it follows the player and everything else is moved on the screen, stuff like that. 26 games, not one game. Let me explain. One of the sad things for me is I've been doing this for a while now, and I only have, between the clients and my personal games, is like maybe 10 games out there. So I don't feel like that's enough output for as much time as I've spent with Corona. So what I want to do, and this is inspired by, I don't know if you know who Ketchup is. Do you know who the Ketchup? You'll know it as soon as I show you. Let me bring it up here.
I only know him because you introduced me to the concepts, but yeah,
so Ketchup is 2048.
Yeah.
Another one people are real familiar is Stick Hero. Make them jump, make them fall. Just all these real super simple mechanics games with real basic artwork. Don't touch the spikes, the one with a bird. So the guys at, I don't know if it's guys or gals, honestly, the guys at Ketchup, I'm just going to say this, in last year they put out, I think it was, I have the notes here, darn it, they put out 33 games last year.
Wow.
And the way they did this was they settled upon a format. Was in some cases they copied somebody else's game. 2048 is a copy of what was it, three something or other. I can't remember the name of it, anyways. But 2048 got all the press. What they did was they chose simple artwork. Come on now. Simple layout for their interfaces. So all their interfaces have sort of like a common structure. There's a button to play the game. There's a button to buy an in-app purchase to turn off ads. There's a button for the rating, and they all have these buttons. And the other big thing they did was they partnered. So you would think, originally I thought they wrote all these games. They wrote like maybe a quarter of these games. The rest of these games, they partnered with somebody else. That person or persons came to them with the mechanic, and then they helped them package it up using their sort of like their brand, in a sense, to make everything homogeneous or recognizable to their growing audience. An interesting graph, just for those who are curious, is this is their release schedule for last year. And pretty much once they got rolling, it was they do a whole sequence where they're doing an app a week. Every once in a while they would do 2 apps. And what this doesn't show is in these weeks where there was no game, they were releasing a non-game app. I think they released 48 apps in total last year. So they pretty much released something every week.
And did you just go through and manually pick this information out?
Sir, say again, please.
Did you just manually go in and collect this information?
Yeah, I went through. I went and got this information from App Annie.
App Annie, okay.
Yeah. So, which is a great website. There's a few other ones like it. Different kinds of information where you can kind of, if you dig deep enough, you can start to pull out this information. So this is my inspiration for my goal of 26 games. Now the brilliance of what they've done, and what I'm going to do here is focus on minimalistic. I have put together a framework where I'm going to use the same framework with a slight tuning on the visuals so that they look different, like different colors, maybe a different shape, but they all have the same buttons, they all have an in-app purchase, they all have ads, and here's the key, all free games. And I just want to point out, I think you're going to see a lot of this year of this kind of minimalistic approach. Another company that just started doing this is General Adaptive and Apps, I don't know, PTY Limited, I don't know what that means. They did something that I think is brilliant. They released a game called AA, and then they released a bunch of them, FFUURR. It's just, you can see these are just made up. These are all the same game, modification on the mechanic. So same exact game, except the mechanics have been changed. So I don't know about you, but I have run into this problem where I do game development, and I'm like, I can't decide this mechanic or that mechanic. I like them both. Maybe I should make a mode. So then you think, I'll give all these buttons where people can choose to play different variants of the game. Messy. Much quicker, better to do one, release it, turn it over again, release the different mechanic, and that's what these guys did. And what they did that was smart was they released them all simultaneously. Okay, so I'm using a lot of my time here. So 26 games, like I said, inspired by Ketchup and General Adaptive. One possibility here is, and I'm considering it, this is, don't email me yet, people, I'm considering partnering. But if I do partner with people, they have to come to me with a completed game mechanic. It doesn't have to be a completed game, but the mechanic has to be completed and working with a complete example. But I have not decided whether I will be doing this yet, so please, again, do not email me quite yet. Let's see. This year I want to wean myself off of contracting gigs. Contracting is great, pays the bills, it can pay a lot of money, but for anybody who does it or has done it, they know that it's a lot of work and it takes something out of you. So I want to get off of it if I can, as much as possible. And finally, I want to get back on the road. Roaming Gamer LLC, which is my company, was designed around the concept, or created with the concept that I would actually be traveling and doing this stuff. And I have not been working and traveling for a couple of years now, and I really would like to do that again. So get my laptop, go someplace, spend part of my time working. That's it. Those are the goals.
I think that's an excellent goal, and I personally can getting back on the road resonates with me because I would like to get on the road. Sure. I have the same intrinsic desire to be mobile and to do what I do from anywhere, And for some reason, even though for the past 5 years I've been working from home, I don't go anywhere.
It's easier to work from home because I have a much more powerful workstation, big monitors, fixed desk. But you know what? There are so many things out there to see and do.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sitting at my desk all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I told my wife the other day. I said, I like my monitors, I like my microphones, I like my the things in my office, but my laptop and my cell phone. That's really all I need.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's been literally 3 years since I did any work while I was traveling.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The blended mode, the blended between work and play, work and travel. It shouldn't be one or the other. At least in my view. It's good to have a base to come back to.
I would take a trip, like I'd go someplace for 2 weeks, and then I'd get up in the morning and work 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and then I'd take the rest of the day and go do whatever I wanted to do wherever I was at.
Yeah, and of course, I'm not an accountant, but I'm sure if you paired that with meeting with people and discussing things, you could write some of that off. So
absolutely.
Right. All right. Well, very cool. I'm interested to know why 26 games as opposed to 24 games.
52 weeks in a year, one every 2 weeks.
Oh, one every two. Okay, one every 2 weeks as opposed to 2 a month.
Yeah.
Give yourself exactly two every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm a 52-week calendar guy, or 53 depending on what year it is.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, we'll have to come back and monitor that as we go along, so we can keep it, kind of an accountability program.
Yeah, gotta keep me honest.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Brian, what about you? What are your goals?
Well, I've got very similar goals to what Ed has. First, I've been dying to get on the road and travel around and work from anywhere, and trying to shift to more distance learning focus so that I can teach online as well as have my apps and be able to publish from anywhere. I've also got a lot of games in queue to do development. I'm kind of taking the exact opposite approach that what Ed's taking, where he's going for the minimalistic. Everything that I'm working on is currently multiplayer, multi-user, multi-cloud based computing. And so that's been my focus, is cloud computing. And what I'll be focusing very intensely on for the next couple of months is creating these cloud-based apps. Been playing a lot of cloud-based games like Clash of Clans, which we've talked about on previous episodes, and a few others, and that's been my focus. So hoping to get those out very quickly.
So you kind of want to go for more of a substantial.
Right. I'm going for a smaller grouping, and it'll be interesting for Ed and I to compare our work. I know he's going to get a lot more apps out than what I'm able to do. I'm hoping to get 3 maybe this next year, and hopefully we'll both be very successful in both approaches.
Sure.
They're just very different approaches. Both are completely valid in what we want to accomplish. So, but our goals are the same. We're just using different routes to get there.
Are you thinking free games or paid games? Or
in-app purchase games?
In-app purchase games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More the freemium model.
So you're thinking that the monetization model for you will be consumable in-app purchases?
Yes, buying coins and chips or whatever is involved in for that particular game.
So as long as we both stay on track, by the end of the year, we should have good data for consumable in-app purchases versus advertising-driven and in-app purchase to turn off the advertising, which is what I'm doing, like a non-consumable in-app purchase.
Yes. So we should have some really good data by the end of the year if we're both able to stay on track.
Yeah, assuming we're able to, which is what I said.
Got to be able to pay the bills, but it's...
Okay, good.
Cool.
I think we've covered it then.
Well, that's interesting.
What are you doing?
Well, so my goals are very similar to both of you. Of course, like I said, I want to get on the road and go do some things. But just like Ed said, all 2014 went by, and the number of games that I put out the door was pretty sad. So this year I want to focus on getting something out, and I was not thinking of 52 weeks in a year, but I was thinking of just the every 2 weeks. But I was thinking of at least 2 games a month to give myself some wiggle room. So I'm thinking 2 games a month, and for that to be kind of on a we call it like a category of games, like pick a particular style of game and then put out maybe 10 versions within that category. That way you can
I love what Ed was saying about using different mechanics to drive the game. I've had several games that way that I had. Well, there's 3 different ways we could handle this movement and different mechanics, and I think that's genius, and be able to put different games out all using the same system, the same artwork, the same basic gameplay, but a different mechanic to go with that. I'm going to definitely go back and adapt some that way.
Well, I'm thinking even slightly a tweak to that is that the mechanic is exactly the same, but the artwork's different. So you're not reskinning in the sense of in that way, but if it's a matching game, then there's just different themes, and then that can appeal to different audiences. Maybe the same level of audience, but just different interests or whatever. So that kind of thing. Try to put out as many as possible. Some of them will definitely be just straight out purchased, because it's going to be, some of them are going to be in the children's category.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll just be a purchased app. There won't be any ads. There won't be any in-app purchase kind of stuff. It'll just be if you just buy the app. So by the end of the year, maybe we'll have some data on like whether in-app purchase versus straight up purchase versus advertising.
Sounds great.
That would be good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wasn't quite sure I heard there. So are you going to be considering doing any reskinning this year, or not at all?
Yeah, I would consider doing some reskinning, and my definition of reskinning is buying a template that somebody else has coded and reskinning it and then publishing that, but also rebranding or changing up the theme on my existing stuff. So once I come up with a game,
because that would be good data to have too, is if doing a series of reskins or rebrands or slight variances, which is the reskin. It's all reskinning.
Right. Yeah, and I also do plan to explore to do that in a variety of different areas. So like Corona, there's a bunch of templates out there that you can acquire and reskin. There's a lot of iOS templates that are out there that you can acquire and reskin. So I'd like to do that in a couple of different camps and just see how things perform and stuff like that. And then I have my own original ideas that I want to create and not reskin but theme, and try to put out variations of them and see what I can do with that as well. So
I would consider theming reskinning.
You do or don't?
Changes the artwork or anything that changes the mechanics a little bit, but it's still basically the same game. I would consider that reskinning. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I've got the wrong definition here, but
and what I'm making the only distinction I'm making is whether or not it's something that you buy prefab that's a template and you're reskinning it in that way, or it's something that you've come up with and then you're still reskinning it, but
I would consider it reskinning if I wrote it and then redid it over and over, or if I bought it and redid it over and over.
Yeah, right. You're considering the same thing, right? So
same thing.
I'm just trying to make that. Yeah, I am just trying to make this distinction because I do want to like some of the purpose of reskinning. I think the brilliance of reskinning, I think, in that when you buy a template and put it out there, is that is this the time, right? You're saving the development time and then you're getting stuff out in the market as soon as possible. And from that, you can learn things from other people's code bases, what they do or what they don't do. But then, ultimately, I want as much of that to be my own ideas and my own whatever as possible. So, anyway, that's kind of my goals.
I would assume that Greg's goals. I'm just going to say Greg's goals for him. Hi, I'm Greg. My goals are to put out more storybooks and more Android and Amazon TV apps. And then we'll be covered. Everything will be covered. We'll have covered all territories.
Yes.
Yeah,
Now
absolutely.
I'm no longer Greg.
And
Greg's going to watch this and go, what?
what? Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get him on next time. We'll ask him what his goals are, and we'll see how closely that matches up. Maybe
You can play back that little snippet in a window for him right on the next show.
I know he's been doing a lot of tutorial type stuff, a lot of courseware
that's right.
kind of stuff
I'm
as well.
Greg,
So
and I'm going to be doing more tutorials.
well, that's good. Well, good, Greg. I'm glad for you. Yeah, we'll see how that matches up next week. I think we should do the accountability thing, and we should keep each other on track, and we should try to figure this out as we go, and then at the end of the year we'll be able to report back to everybody what our progress was and what our results were, and good or bad, whatever comes out, and then we can all learn from that.
I think on accountability, we should each send our list to Charles and put our list in the show notes.
Yeah, I was actually going to let's put our list in the show notes, and I was actually going to suggest maybe we create a Facebook group,
something to track us,
and something where we could state our goals, and then not necessarily call it have a meeting, but check in every once a week or whatever, and kind of say where we're going and how things are going and where we're stuck and stuff like that, because it would be good to have someone keep you accountable, and it's also good to, if you're stuck on something, somebody can say, oh, well then here, just do this, go check this out, go look at this tutorial. What's that?
And what I need is more pressure.
Yeah, okay. Anything we can do to help. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for today. If you have your goals or you want to share your goals with us, you can do that over at facebook.com/coronageek. We would love to hear what you have planned for this year, and if you want to be a part of that accountability group, let us know. We will be interested to see how many people are interested in that concept. And that's it. I think we'll be back here next Monday, 12 p.m. Pacific, talking about mobile app development using Corona SDK. Until then, have a great week and happy coding.
Cheers. And Greg says goodbye too.
Nice.